Well, Qantas executives, including former Chief Executive Alan Joyce, will be asked to reveal all conversations they had with government ministers ahead of the Transport Minister Catherine King's decision to ban Qatar Airways' bid from extra flights into Australia. Meanwhile, Labor is seeking to amend the terms of reference of the inquiry to look back at actions the last coalition government took as well. Joining me now to discuss all of this is Labor MP for Parramatta, Andrew Charlton, and National Senator Bridget McKenzie. Welcome to you both. Bridget, you're the chair of this inquiry. Who do you plan to call to appear? And what exactly do you want to find out about Qantas's relationship with the government over the Qatar decision?
Yeah, thanks, Shari. Well, it's been a brutal week in the Senate as the government has tried to shut down this select committee being set up, and they were still fighting as late as 4 p.m. this afternoon. But thanks to independent senators, the opposition was able to set up this special inquiry to investigate the Qatar Airways decision by this government and other matters around the affordability and reliability of our aviation sector. So it's great news for Australian travellers because you all want to get on flights that take off on time, land on time, are well priced, and your bag comes with you. And that's the responsibility of the Albanese government as regulator, and they've really dropped the ball on this one. So we're going to be wanting to look to call the present and the past CEO of Qantas, and obviously the current CEO of Virgin and Rex. We're also wanting to hear from the Qatari ambassador, the Qatar Airways specifically, and a range of economists and academics who really have had some really strong perspectives on the benefit that this particular decision could have had it gone the other way on the Australian economy. And I know the airports and customers will also have a lot of things to say, as will the TWU. So it's going to be a very serious committee. We want to make sensible, evidence-based recommendations to the Senate that the government can pick up and use to make sure Australians have a much more affordable, reliable and safe aviation industry. And in relation to this specific question around the Qatar Airways decision, we are prepared to look at previous decisions, and we're looking forward to that openness so we can provide some really sensible recommendations for our country going forward.
Yeah, so you're of course referring there to the decision by Michael McCormack in 2018 when he was the relevant minister and he made a similar decision on Qatar. Andrew Charlton, Trade Minister Don Farrell has suggested that Qatar could reapply for extra flights in and out of Australia. Do you think it should do this?
Well, just on the previous point, I think it is important for the inquiry to look back in history. Let's remember that the previous government left Australia's aviation sector in complete chaos. They gave billions of dollars to Qantas with no strings attached. They let Virgin fail and fall into administration. They oversaw mass job losses in the sector. And as you've just said, their own Transport Minister, Michael McCormack, blocked Qatar Airways for 4 years in not dissimilar circumstances. So really, the opposition doesn't have a great leg to stand on when it comes to lecturing the government about this situation. I think it's appropriate that the minister has said that Qatar Airways could reapply. The Transport Minister has pointed out that Qatar Airways can increase their capacity right now into other airports in Australia, and that's available to them from today.
Well, we all know, Andrew, that your government, the Albanese government, has been running a protection racket for Qantas post-COVID. You're responsible now, and there are decisions that your government could make right now on the Harris Review about flexibility in and out of Sydney Airport, on the slots, and also on this Qatar Airways decision that would have actually subjected Qantas to more competition, but would have meant lower airfares. We're talking about 28 flights into 4 capital cities. That's 1 a day, every day for a week. It's not going to break Qantas's back. I don't know what you're so scared of.
Andrew, do you want to respond to that?
You were not doing that. Sure. I mean, this is...
Post-COVID,
this is
when the airline industry...
Andrew, I was going to ask you to respond to the claim by Bridget that the government is running a protection racket for Qantas, that there is this close relationship between the Prime Minister and Alan Joyce.
I just think that is not supported by the evidence at all. the previous government blocked Qatar Airways for 4 years.
So why did you exclude
was that a protection racket?
So why was aviation actually explicitly excluded from the competition review?
The government,
that anything other than when it's clearly not competitive.
Billions of dollars to Qantas with no strings attached. Was that a protection racket?
We saved tens of thousands of Australians' jobs as a result of those decisions during COVID, during a global pandemic, Andrew.
The previous government left Australia's aviation sector in complete chaos. They made a very similar decision in relation to Qatar Airways. They gave away billions of dollars with no clawback. And now they have the hypocrisy to come and criticise this government for making a decision in very similar circumstances.
We'll be listening to the evidence, Shari,
Right,
and making sensible recommendations.
All right, look, let's talk about the chairman of the Qantas board, Richard Goyder. We've seen corporate governance experts like Helen Bird come out today and say that effectively, he should not be governing Australia's biggest airline after the revelations of the past couple of weeks. She says that to be a chairman of a company that big requires you to theoretically be able to comb through every issue with a fine-tooth comb. What we've seen instead is Richard Goyder, alongside Alan Joyce, go into the Fin Review, demand that the editors stop running Joe Aston's reports. They pulled the Fin Review from Qantas lounges. Bridget McKenzie, do you think it's time that Richard Goyder should step down as chairman?
Well, ultimately, that's going to be a decision for others. I think the fact that Qantas is now subject to an ACCC investigation and court action over alleged egregious behaviour against their own customers and Australians, I think speaks for itself. I also was at the Senate inquiry a couple of weeks ago asking questions about that very cosy deal that the former CEO had set up with the Qantas board around his share interests, not having to be taken in the off years, but only in the years when Qantas made a profit, and therefore he leaves with, you know, his carry-on baggage in excess of $24 million, if reports to be believed. I mean, so there are a lot of questions here. And so one of the things the committee will be looking at is should we be calling Mr Goyder to really answer questions about the governance of Qantas more broadly.
And you will be calling him to your inquiry?
We will be able to call, and so that'll be up to the committee as they meet.